Hi, this is Haste Kitchen, and over the next 6 episodes, I've teamed up with Rennie to look at the real science behind food. And what this means is I'm going to be filming recipes from Middle Eastern cuisine right the way through to London street food, and looking at all the things that actually happen with the science of our food when we start heating them up or mixing elements together. So we've got Sally here.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about some sciencey facts about cooking and about the ingredients that we're using. And with that little bit of extra sciencey knowledge and information, it'll give you tips and tricks as to how to make your cooking better.
So next up, we have got this super tasty asparagus and mushroom
Risotto. Looks so good.
So first up, we're going to get a pan up to heat, and if you, Sally, can get on with dicing
Chopping the onions.
your favourite thing. Cut away from the root.
Away from the root.
If you've learned anything from yesterday's recipes, you won't be crying by the end of it.
So we're going to really finely slice the onions because we want them to break down in the risotto.
Nice, see, look at that. It's
Rocking
like 10%
action.
faster than yesterday. Right, so you're going to get a pan up to heat, a little dash of olive oil, and we're going to go in there with one finely sliced onion. We're going to go in there with about 8 to 9 really finely chopped mushrooms. So, good amount of butter. Now, secret to a decent risotto is extra creaminess, so lots of starch from the rice, lots of butter. It's quite an indulgent dish, but it is so good. Okay, so that's going to be sweating down. It's going to take about 4 or 5 minutes. Over here, we have got a bowl with some porcini mushrooms in there.
Do you know about mushrooms? You know when we go in the sun, our skin produces vitamin D.
Yep.
It's called like the sunny vitamin.
Yeah.
Mushrooms can do that as well.
Really?
They
So
only
can they
found-
give us vitamin D?
Yeah, so they only found this out recently. If you put mushrooms, it's just like cooked like from the shop, slice them up, stick them in the sun, they'll produce vitamin D, and then when you eat them, it's
You
a
absorb
great
it.
dietary source of vitamin D.
So we've got 1 vegetable stock cube just melted down. Add that in with the mushrooms. It's going to intensify the flavour of the mushrooms as well. You can go in there with 300 millilitres of boiling hot water. 2 cloves of roughly cut garlic, just to run over the top of the garlic, and then just smear it back with your knife, and then run the knife over it again. And that's going to slightly puree that garlic. So into there we're going to go in with 1 decent shot of brandy. Let it settle down and burn off some of that alcohol.
So lots of people think that flambeing gets rid of all the alcohol. It doesn't. It's only going to take off about 25% of the alcohol, so 3/4 of it is left in the pan. And as well, if you're glugging in a load of wine to say a sauce and you're boiling it off for an hour, there's still going to be 1/4 of that alcohol left in, even after you boil it for an hour. So you're not getting rid of it completely.
Never knew that. Never knew that. All these amazing facts coming out today.
It's all the science.
We're going to go in with 300 grams of rice. We're using
Short grain rice, and that's because it's the starch in the rice that's going to make a thick, creamy sauce. It'll thicken up the liquid. And there are 2 types of rice starch. There's one amylopectin, which really does the thickening up, and you find that most in short grain rice, not in long grain rice. So that's why you won't get a thick, creamy risotto if you use something like basmati or wild rice that's long grain.
and that is key, isn't it? It's the actual, the creamy release which actually makes the sauce so luxurious.
Exactly, it's thickening up the sauce and giving that impression of cream without having to add more fat and more dairy.
At this point, I'm going to introduce just under 3/4 of a glass of white wine. Right, you can see the mushrooms there have taken on all that flavour of the stock, and it's also then released all its own flavour as well. So we're just going to ladle another couple of those in there.
If you're on a rush though, you can just add all the liquid in one go, because as long as you don't wash your rice, this is the problem some people make with risotto rice, because you can wash long grain rices if you're cooking it for a curry, but with risotto that starch is in a powder on the outside of the grain, so you do not want to wash that away. That's what's going to make it thick and creamy. Actually rubbing the grains together, lots of people think is what generates the creaminess. It doesn't.
It's just a starch release.
Yeah, but it does help it cook more evenly if you add it a little bit of water at a time.
What Sally's trying to say is just trying to take the whole fun out of the lovely, slow process of making a creamy risotto.
But it
you
will-
can just microwave it.
You can just microwave it. It won't be as good if you microwave it, and it won't be as good if you bung all the stock in, because the rice grains at the bottom will get more heat than the ones at the top.
Right,
So
getcha.
if you add it slowly, mix it more, everything will cook
Give it
more
some
evenly.
love, slow
Yeah.
stirs, introduce butter, get your rosemary in there. I'm just going to drop that to the side, and that's going to gently infuse that sauce. Remember, we've got loads of strong flavours in there. We've got brandies, we've got white wine, we've got butter, we've got some extra powerful mushrooms in there. So don't overpower it any more than it needs to be. We're going to put a little bit of a sheen to this dish now, so I'm just going to go in there with another 15 grams of butter. Give that a little stir, let that melt in.
Would you say cooking is more of a science or more of an art?
I think it's a bit of both, really. Depending what you need to do, what you're actually making. If you're doing a Sunday roast, it's both. It's timing.
Yeah.
That's the most crucial thing. Right, we're coming up to about 10 minutes away from that being cooked. We're going to add citrus in there, going with half a lemon. And what's that acidity going to do?
That acidity is going to go into your stomach and is going to increase the acidity in your stomach. And high acidity in the stomach is what leads to indigestion. And you're going to add your stock slowly, about every 4 or 5 minutes or so for the next 15 minutes until the whole thing is reduced by about half.
Into a bowl with asparagus, we're going to lightly blanch that off with some boiling water. After a couple of minutes, we're going to introduce that straight into the risotto. So I'm going to add the asparagus into the risotto. That's cooked through nicely. We can serve this one up.
I cannot wait.
There's enough here, isn't there?
Oh, just a bit. Maybe you and me, that's all it'll take.
Decent portion of that into your centre of your bowl. Making sure you get a little bit of the asparagus and the mushrooms in there as well. Little drizzle of olive oil and a decent helping of your parmesan.
Parmesan has that new fifth flavour. So we've got sweet, we've got sour, bitter, salt, and recently umami or savoury, which is found in a lot of Eastern dishes. So like soy sauce has umami, but Parmesan is the main one in Western ingredients.
Didn't know that either. Finally, a little bit of black pepper just over the top. Now, that was no hardship to make that, was it?
It really wasn't that bad.
Right, tell me if this is a boring or a particularly good risotto.
I like risotto at the best of times. So let's get all that Parmesan, umami, get the mushrooms.
Verdict?
That's really good. Yeah. Oh, full of flavour. It's just great.
So there we go, that is our super simple but packed full of flavour mushroom asparagus
Risotto.
Now if you do recreate this one, hashtag Biz Haste Kitchen as always. I love seeing your recreations. If you want to know more about Rennie, click in the description box down below which takes you straight through to the website, and we'll see you next week. Cheers then.
Bye.